Good morning, Rabbi Sai. Oh. Rus was Mordechai? Rus was Mordechai. I didn't say that. Okay. So it says the Heilige Mishnah. Kol Menachos shenikmet zwischen Shmon ksheros. If you remember, if you recall, and if you don't recall, we're doing Chazarah. When a Kohen, he brings a mincha for the Yisrael, Yiddishkeit is in the head. Everything's about the kavana, about the machshava. You have to have lishma. You have to realize what you're bringing. And there's different types of menachos. Here's some of the stuff that our artists put together. Different breads. There's lechem apanim. The shtei alechem. Lechem apanim is what we have in the shulchan every week. 12 breads. Shtei alechem is on Shavuos. But let's focus on the two top left ones. You have minchas marcheshes and minchas machvas. They're both very similar. Same ingredients. In fact, they have the same exact ingredients. But one is a little softer than the other, and it's because it's made in a deeper dish, like a deep dish pizza. The other one is a flat pizza. And because it's flat, the oil burns out quicker, so the mincha is harder. Two different menachos. So, if the kohen thinks to himself that he's bringing a minchas machvas, but in fact it's a minchas marcheshes, he messed up completely. He messed up. And therefore, the owner must bring another mincha. But what do you do with the mincha that he messed up with? What you do is, you continue going weiter. You bring it. The owner is going to have to bring another one. We had the same exact halacha when it came to korbanos. If the kohen messes up, he thinks he's bringing a shlomim instead of a noila, you continue. But the owner over there is going to cost him a lot more. Instead of $6, he's going to have to bring something that costs $500, another carbon. But just like in Zvachim, there was an exception to the rule. If a carbon chatas is messed up, or a carbon pesach, only two, then you take the carbon and you throw it out in the garbage. That is special garbage in the Beis HaMikdash. It's not literally a garbage. You burn it somewhere, but it doesn't continue. You don't continue. And the same thing by a mincha. Certain menachas, if you mess up, throw it out. You toss it. Ella shalei olu lebalim l'shem chayva. The Gemara is going to address this word Ella. What it should say is, V'loi olu lebalim l'shem chayva. The bailam, the owner, wasn't yaitza. He has to bring another carbon, another mincha. The word Ella, it's a curious word here. What is it doing here? Ella. Ella means only. But, V'loi olu. So we'll see in the Gemara. Chutz, there are two exceptions. Just like we have by Zvachim, we have two exceptions there. Chutz minchas choitei u'minchas knois. When a person sins, there's a way to remember what kind of sins. Shvat. Shin, Beis, Tes. Those are the three sins. Shin stands for Shmias Kol. Basically, if you hear of an Eidos and you don't come by, you swear that you don't know about it. Or Bitui, Shwas Bitui with Beis, is that you swear falsely. And the Tes stands for, anybody want to guess? Who said? Tuma. Very good. Tuma. You're not allowed to bring a carbon when you're tamei, or the carbon is tamei. For that, you have to bring a carbon. Now, if you can't afford the carbon, what do? If you're very poor, you could get away without bringing a $500 animal. You could bring something made out of flour. Now, another thing that I remember is that a carbon, minchas chatos, a chaita, there's no oil. No oil. How do you remember that? Because Mendy, from the English here, the guy that goes weiter, we'll know him as Mr. Weiter, he asked and he says, Choite niskar, a guy that sins, he's going to benefit, he doesn't have to pay money. And in fact, it's the opposite. Because he did a chet, so we treat him like that. It's like, you're going to bring a very cheap kind of carbon. You're not going to be able to honor the Rebbeinu Shalom with a beautiful carbon, just a flour carbon, no oil. Uminchas knois. When a husband suspects his wife of being misyach with another man, he warns her. He says, don't have yichud with another man. She doesn't listen. So he brings her to the Beis HaMikdash. We all know the Saita. There's a whole process, a very long process. And part of the process is she has to bring a mincha. Minchas choyte minchas knois, shekmotzim shloi lishma. So the kmitza, we know, I'll show you a little bit of a video here. Here we go. You guys ready? Check this out. Brand new for today. Of some of the process of a type of a mincha. Nisaran. Now first you pour oil on the bottom. There's 3 oils we're going to see. Then you put the flour, then you put oil on top. Then you do blila. Mix it in good. Then you break it up into pieces. What's this for? If I cry? Are you saying I need to blow my nose? Okay. Stop. All of a sudden I need tissues. I do whatever Benny tells me to do. That's it. All right. Next. Minchas choyte minchas knois. Oh, that's the levina. I forgot. Levina. We're middle still. So you add levina. And now he's going to move the levina to the side. Where's the kmitza? That's not the kmitza. Oh, he's doing it like that. Okay. You put it in another kli. You see another kli. Very good. And you put salt. Great. And then you put that onto the flame. Look how the fire is going to get larger over here. It's great. Mamish, like real life. And then the leftover is called shirayim, and you get to eat that. Minchas choytu minchas knois. You go like this, you stick your hand in this way, straight in, grab 3 fingers worth, you break it off with your thumb and your pinky, make sure it's exactly 3. It's very difficult, the Gemara says, to do. And that's your kmitza. That's what goes on the mizbeach, this amount. The rest is for the kohanim to eat. But if you thought to yourself that it's not a minchas choyte, it's a minchas nedava, it's not a minchas knois, it's a minchas choyte. Whatever, you messed up the type. When you did the kmitza, it's shaloi lishma. Nosam beklivi hilech. So what the Mishnah is saying is, if you were with us for Zvachim, you know, and even if you weren't Zvachim, I think most people know that there's 4 avodos when it comes to a carbon. What are the 4 different things that you do that a kohen does? He does shchita. He does kabbalah. After you shecht, you have to receive the blood in a kli. After that, what do? Rabbi said, what do? Haylacha. You walk it to where? To the mizbeach. And then you spray it onto the mizbeach. Those are the 4. Corresponding to those 4, we have also 4 avodas when it comes to the mincha. The shchita by a mincha is the kmitza. The kabbalah is to put it into the second kli, like you saw. It's a kli shar, it's made out of gold. Nosam bekli. He did the kabbalah in the kli. Vihilach. And he moved it, he walked towards the mizbeach. What is that called? Hilacha. Vihiktir. If in one of these 4 avodas he had the wrong machshava, he could ruin it in any one of the 4. Shaloi lishman, he thought it was another type of mincha. Oy lishman v'shaloi lishman. Or he started off good. He said, this is a minchas choyte. And then he flipped it to a minchas knois. Shaloi lishman. Oh, shaloi lishman. He started off bad. And then he flipped it to good. psulos. Rashi just asked a very simple question. What's the chiddush? If you start off bad, of course it's not good. You can't take something that's bad and make it good. I hear a chiddush. If you start off good and then you messed up, okay, that's a chiddush. If you start off bad, so Rashi says beautifully, he says, I would think, he says, you think, oh, if you start off good and then you went bad, that's bad. Why? The toughest Lashon Achra. Maybe there's a whole concept in Shas. Tfois Lashon Achra, and we go by the last thing that you do, the first thing. So I would think, oh, if you start off bad, but then you realize your mistake and you went to good, so it's good. You go by the whatever you did last. A lot of times in Shtoris and in Lashonis and Shas, it goes by the last Lashon. So maybe also by a Maisa. It says no, Kamash Malon, that even if you start good and if you start bad and you went good, it's still bad. Keitzad Lishmon and B'Shalei Lishmon. This is simple stuff. What does it mean? You start off good and bad. You started off l'shem minchas chayta. You wanted a minchas chayta. L'shem minchas nedava, and then you went to the mincha nedava. Shalei l'shmon l'shmon. How does you start off bad and then you went to good? L'shem minchas nedava. You went bad. It's not a minchas nedava. It's a minchas chayta. But you thought it was a minchas nedava at the beginning. Then you went to minchas chayta. Great. Ask the Gemara. Lama li lemisna ella. Why do I need the word ella only? How does the word only start? Just say listening. If the kohen messes up, the owner has to bring another one. So says the Gemara Kamashmalan. The Baalim of the Loyalu L'Shum Chayva Homincha Gufa Kshera. This is already explained in the beginning of the Mishnah. The owner is not going to get a kapara from this one, but you continue doing what you need to do. Homincha Gufa Kshera V'Asal Shanuya. Just because you messed up in the beginning doesn't mean you should continue messing up. You messed up once. Go back to what you were supposed to do. It was supposed to be a minchas chayte. You thought it's a minchas nedava. Now you figured it out. Go back to minchas chayte. I'm in a minchas chayte now. Continue doing it. The owner will bring another one. You just think that it's a minchas chayte. Kiderava. Rava says, Dama Rava, Rava says that if it was a carbon, it was a oila, and you shechted it thinking that it's a shlomim, let's say. So don't say, oh, it's a shlomim, forget it, I messed up, so let's continue with the mess up. No. When you sprinkle the blood on the mizbeach, you say to yourself, this is an oila. How does he know this? Either it's pure logic, or he has a pasuk. He has a svara how just because he made a mistake, he should continue with his mistake. It's a svara, it's common sense. Because a person messed up, that's why you should continue with your mistake. So you messed up. You might have to pay a little bit, a knas, because you messed up. You'll have to bring another carbon. But don't continue with your mistake. You hear this side. Tell people. They need to know this. Just because you watch one bad thing on the internet doesn't mean you continue watching the whole night. What? You messed up once. You go weiter. Whatever it is. Whatever your taiva is, whatever your thing is. Remember this side. And some people say it's a pasuk. It says, Moitzah sefosecha tishmar v'asisa kasher nodarta l'Hashem elikecha nedava. We have a big problem with this pasuk. What's the difference between a neder and a nedava? A neder means harei olai. In general, I'm going to bring a carbon. If this one dies, I have to bring another one. Nedava is zu. Only this one. If this one dies, so how do you remember? Because in the middle of the word nedava, there's dalid vez, which is a dove, which is a beer. Where does a beer belong? In a zoo. So nedava, here we go. Let me see if I can find it. Otazai. Dove, zu. Nedava is harei zu. This one, right over here. The problem is that in the same pasuk it says both words. It says nadarta nedava. So the Gemara says nedava nederhu. Karli neder, karli nedava. You're calling it both. Ella, pshat is im kemosh nedarta sisa yin neder. If you do what you're supposed to do, you say that it's a minchas chayte, let's say, and it's a chayte. Great, then you're yaitza. Im lav yin nedava. But if not, it's a nedava, and then you have to bring another one. Tav bezim and bez. Unedava mishar lishanuye. And if it's a nedava, you're not allowed to change things around. Le'mas isn't like Reb Shimon. our Mishnah must be not going like Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. This is how Reb Shimon Oimer. Reb Shimon says, if you mess up on your mincha, instead of thinking that it's a minchas choyde, you think it's a nedava, ksherois, it's kosher, ve'olu lebalim l'shem choyva. By the way, I just noticed now, it doesn't say the word elo over here. It doesn't say elo olu lebalim. It says ve'olu, mamish like the Gemara is asking, why doesn't it say ve'loy olu? Always says ve'olu. It works. A guy doesn't have to bring another carbon. That's mamish the opposite of what we said in the Mishnah. The Mishnah says it doesn't work for the owner. And I'll tell you why, says the Gemara, because a carbon is different. Actions speak louder than words. If I'm making a thin mincha, obviously I'm not making a thick one. So I could say thick all I want, but it's thin. It's hard like a rock. I could say it's soft. It doesn't matter. So what I say is nothing when my action is different than my words. I'm not going to listen to my words. If it's dry, like a boxer, I could say blula, whatever, or the opposite. It's obvious that I try to do a chareva. Don't bring me a raya from korbanos. Over there, shchidachas lekulon, zvigunachas lekulon. When you shech the oil, it's the same thing as shechting shlamim. So there's no raya. What are you shechting? V'kabalachas lekulon, the same thing with kabbalah and eilocha, etc. Says Gemara, so we have a contradiction between Reb Shimon Bar Yochai and our Mishnah. Says Gemara, perhaps when a person doesn't use the word mincha, he just says machvas, marcheshes. That's different. When a person says, I'm making a minchas machvas, he sticks the word mincha in. So then he ruined it. Instead of minchas marcheshes. Masnisin mincha l'shum mincha. The reason why it doesn't work in our Mishnah is because he made a kavana. He said, I'm doing a mincha, a different type of mincha. That's why it's possible. You say, I'm making a marcheshes instead of a machvas. That's not the end of the world. El Rabba v'Rava ma'ikla meimar. We're going to see Rabba and Rava in a second. Perhaps, like Rabba answers. That what? There's a difference. Another nafkamina. And perhaps that's Reb Shimon Bar Yochai is talking about one thing and our Mishnah is talking about another thing. That what? Kan, he answers over there something else that we'll see later. When a person, here, check this out. Yoshi came off a plane. You know how it is when you fly. I know how it is. The young guys don't know. The Kohen, he can mess up by thinking, instead of the guy on the right, the guy on the left. Instead of Reuven, he did Shimon. That's a big mess up. It's different than thinking about two different types of korbanos. The left, he said it's a nedava instead of a chayta. Okay. Not the end of the world. That Reb Shimon Bar Yochai says, you're yoytzei. When you mess up the owner, that's a problem. Our Mishnah is talking about changing change in ownership. Change in ownership, that's no good. That ruins it. How could you say such a pshat in our Mishnah? It says mefurish diktani ketzal l'shmam shel l'shmon. That's what the Gemara says. It can't be the pshat. It says mefurish in our Mishnah. We're talking about what's the difference. L'shma, according to you, it should say instead of Reuven, it said Shimon. No, that's not what it says in our Mishnah. L'shum minchas chayta, l'shum minchas nedava. The Mishnah says mefurish that the problem is that you changed the designation of the mincha. This instead of a chayta, it's a nedava. It doesn't say anything about Reuven and Shimon. Maybe, okay, so we'll go a different route. We'll go with Rava, not Rabba. Person messed up, he thought that he's bringing a carbon for a mincha for a carbon, instead of a mincha for a mincha. Again, you can't say that pshat. When a person messes up and he does mincha for a carbon, that's no good, says Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. I'm sorry, our Mishnah says it's no good. But Reb Shimon Bar Yochai is talking about a mincha for a mincha, so that's okay. Again, it doesn't fit into our Mishnah. Why? What's the mashal of the Mishnah? He didn't bring it for a carbon, he brought it for a different type of mincha. Like we said before, we started off the sugya. We can't answer the Gemara like Rabba and Rava. Okay. However, Urami the Reb Shimon and the Reb Shimon. But we do have a contradiction between Reb Shimon Bar Yochai himself. The Sanya Reb Shimon Oimer. What does Reb Shimon Bar Yochai say? That if you mess up on the type of mincha, it works for the owner. We have a brayso that says, Sanya Reb Shimon Oimer, Kodesh Kadoshim Kichatas Kadoshim. It says in the pasuk regarding a mincha, talking about a mincha, it says a mincha is like a chatas, like a asham. Really? A mincha is like a chatas, like a asham. In what way? Yesh mem kechatas, yesh mem keasham. Kodesh Kadoshim Kichatas Kaasham. Yesh mem kechatas, yesh mem keasham. Sometimes the mincha is like a chatas, sometimes like a asham. Yesh mem kechatas, yesh mem keasham. Mincha is choy da'arei kechatas. Sometimes a mincha is like a chatas. Lefichach kmatza shaloi lishma psula kechatas. We know the first mission of Zvachim that if you mess up on a chatas, that's it, toss it out. So the same thing by a minchas choyte, if you mess up, toss it. Lefichach kmatza shaloi lishma, you had the wrong intent while you were doing the kmitza, putting your hand in. Pasul psula kechatas. Now, how is a mincha similar to asham? Minchas nedava areiki asham. Oh, if I'm bringing a voluntary mincha, what's about? I want to give something beautiful to the Rebbeinu Shalom, but I pasha can't afford it. So I bring a bag of flour to the Beis Hamikdash. That's like a asham. Lefichach kmatza shelo lishma. If the kohen messes up on the kmitza, he puts his hand in and thinks, oh, it's not a nedava, it's a minchas choyta. Ksheiro. Now it's kosher. The problem is that we just read here that according to Reb Shimon, it doesn't work. And Reb Shimon says that if you mess up, it does work. He said it's like a chatas. If you mess up on the chatas, Reb Shimon is mechulek on two things. He holds that even by a chatas, if you mess up, you continue to bring it. It's good. And over here we just read in the brayso that if you mess up on a chatas, it's no good. Omer Rabbo, we have to reconcile this. When you mess up in the type of korbanos, the type of mincha, that's kosher. That's where Reb Shimon was saying it's kosher. Why? Because the mais is moichiach. What's mais moichiach? I could tell from what you're doing that you didn't really mean to say that. Sometimes, you say the wrong, you call your kid, anybody that has boys, you go from the top, you keep going, Aaron, Kivi, Lozi, You know what I'm talking about? You don't mean to say it. So the guy's in front of you, the mais is moichiach, right? When your kid is in front of you, you call him the wrong name. You didn't mean to call him that. It just came out of your mouth. When you're talking about a minchas marcheshes and you call it a minchas whatever, you didn't mean that. It's in front of you. That's when it's kodesh. Kamishinu bailam. But when there's another owner, you're calling it a Reuven instead of Shimon. That is possible. Because over here you can't prove what you meant and what you didn't mean. That was in your machshava in your head. Amalei Abai. Bichti machshava the pasuk Rachmana Akeshi. Says Abai, what difference does it make? I'm learning this from a limud in the Torah. When it comes to a limud, you can't start making enough keminas. Mali shinu kodesh, mali shinu bailam. If you mess up, you mess up. This is logic. It's not a limud in the Torah. Why would Reb Shimon do logic? The Reb Shimon dorish time of the Kro. You could see what the person's machshava was by the action that he's taking. And since he's making a thick mincha, that's what he meant to do. So don't tell me he said a thin one. He made a thick one. Says Gemara, the Reb Shimon dorish time of the Kro. Machshava d'lo minkra pasur rachmana. When you can't tell what he was doing, what he didn't do, that's possible. Machshava d'minkra le pasur rachmana. But a machshava, how much time do we have, Mark? Yishkoich for having me, Rabbi Sai. Have a wonderful day.
Merit the schus of spreading Torah throughout the world. Sponsor a shir today. MDYsponsor.com or sponsor at MDY.com.